Margaret of Bohemia was born into power. A world of gilded cages and ancient expectations awaited her. From the moment she entered this world, her path was largely predetermined, shaped by the ambitions of her lineage and the intricate dance of European politics. Her fate, intertwined with the destiny of nations, was sealed from birth. The crown, a symbol of immense authority and responsibility, loomed large in her future. As the daughter of Emperor Charles IV, one of the most influential rulers of the Holy Roman Empire, Margaret's value extended far beyond her personal worth. She was a linchpin, a vital piece in the complex chessboard of royal alliances. Her life was not her own. It was a tool, carefully honed and wielded for dynastic ambition. Every aspect of her upbringing, her education, and her very existence was geared towards strengthening her family's position and expanding their influence across the continent. In the medieval world, marriages were rarely about love or personal happiness. They were strategic alliances, carefully calculated to secure territories, forge peace, and consolidate power. Margaret was a pawn, albeit a very valuable one, in a grand Game of Thrones, where kingdoms were won and lost through shrewd negotiation and carefully orchestrated unions. Her role was predetermined, her moves dictated by the needs of the empire. She was destined from a young age to be queen, a role that demanded she secure alliances, produce heirs, and embody the virtues expected of a royal figure. Her future was mapped out, a tapestry woven with threads of duty, obligation, and political necessity. Her childhood, a fleeting moment of innocence, was brief. Her future, weighty with responsibility, was decided early, casting a long shadow over her formative years. The carefree days of youth were sacrificed at the altar of political expediency. At a tender age, she was betrothed to Charles I of Hungary, a union designed to solidify ties between two powerful realms. This arrangement set the stage for a dramatic shift in her life, pulling her away from everything she knew. Charles, a king from the esteemed House of Anjou, represented a powerful and influential force in Eastern Europe. The marriage was more than just a personal union. It was a strategic alignment of two major political entities. This union served as a strategic bridge, a vital connection between the vast Holy Roman Empire and the Kingdom of Hungary, fostering trade, diplomacy, and mutual defense against common enemies. It was a marriage of convenience, designed to benefit both dynasties. For Margaret, this betrothal meant leaving behind everything familiar: her family, her homeland, and the only life she had ever known. It was a daunting prospect for a young girl, thrust into a world of unfamiliar customs and expectations. She embarked on a long and arduous journey to a foreign court, surrounded by strangers, forced to adapt to new customs, and navigate the treacherous waters of Hungarian politics. The weight of her new role settled heavily upon her young shoulders. At a remarkably young age, barely out of childhood, she became Queen of Hungary, a position of immense power and responsibility that would test her strength and resilience in ways she could scarcely imagine. The hopes and dreams of two powerful realms rested precariously on her shoulders, a burden that would shape her reign and define her legacy. She was the embodiment of their alliance, the living symbol of their shared future. The marriage ceremony itself was a grand spectacle, a carefully orchestrated display of wealth, power, and political might. Banners fluttered in the wind, trumpets blared, and the assembled nobility gathered to witness her arrival, their eyes filled with anticipation and perhaps a hint of skepticism. Draped in opulent royal robes, adorned with jewels and precious metals, Margaret's life in Bohemia, the familiar comforts of her childhood, effectively ended as her new role as Queen of Hungary officially began. It was a profound transition, a complete immersion into a new world. She was expected to embody the virtues of a queen: piety, grace, and unwavering loyalty, serving as a moral compass for the kingdom. Above all else, her primary duty was to produce a male heir, ensuring the continuation of the dynasty and securing the future of the Hungarian kingdom. This expectation loomed large, casting a shadow over her every action. She was tasked with managing a vast royal household, overseeing countless servants, and navigating the treacherous currents of court intrigue, where alliances shifted like sand. Every decision, every word, every gesture was subject to scrutiny, her every move observed and analyzed by watchful eyes. The pressure to succeed, to fulfill her royal obligations, was immense, an almost unbearable burden for someone so young and inexperienced. Every move was meticulously watched, every word carefully weighed, as the courtiers sought to discern her strengths and weaknesses, her allies and enemies. The royal court was a stage, a theater of power and ambition, and Margaret found herself thrust into the leading role, expected to perform flawlessly under the constant glare of public attention. Her private fears, her anxieties, and her personal desires had no place in the public sphere. She was expected to maintain a facade of unwavering strength and composure at all times. She was, in many ways, isolated, her life meticulously dictated by the relentless demands of royal duty, separated from the ordinary joys and freedoms of a normal life. The weight of expectation, the crushing responsibility of her position, threatened to overwhelm her, to suffocate her spirit beneath the heavy mantle of the crown. Margaret's world was one of unimaginable privilege, surrounded by luxury and opulence. But it was also a world of profound loneliness, a gilded cage that separated her from genuine connection and personal fulfillment. Her future, and indeed the future of the kingdom she now ruled, hung precariously in the balance, dependent on her ability to navigate the treacherous currents of politics and fulfill her royal obligations. She was a queen, yes, but also a prisoner of her own destiny, trapped within the confines of her royal role, her life circumscribed by duty and obligation. The story of Margaret of Bohemia begins not with triumphant fanfare or glorious conquest, but with a profound sacrifice, a somber acknowledgement of the heavy price of power and the personal cost of dynastic ambition. The Hungarian court dazzled with opulence, a spectacle of wealth and power designed to impress visitors and solidify the kingdom's prestige. Gold shimmered, jewels glittered, and the finest fabrics adorned every surface. Life revolved around lavish feasts, thrilling tournaments showcasing knightly prowess, and seemingly endless ceremonial events that marked every occasion, big or small. Each event was a carefully orchestrated display of royal authority. Margaret lived in undeniable luxury, surrounded by comforts and privileges beyond measure. But it was, in many ways, a gilded cage. Her freedom was limited, her choices dictated by her royal status. Isolated from her family, far from her homeland and the familiar faces of her childhood. She struggled with a foreign language, a constant barrier to genuine connection, and unfamiliar customs that governed every aspect of courtly life. Simple interactions became complex challenges. The courtiers' smiles hid ambitions, a constant undercurrent of political maneuvering and personal gain. Alliances shifted like the wind, and loyalty was a rare commodity. In this environment, trust was rare, a precious and fragile thing easily broken by whispered rumors and calculated betrayals. Every gesture was scrutinized, every word analyzed for hidden meaning. The queen was always on display, a subject of constant observation. Her role was not simply to exist, but to be the perfect queen, a symbol of stability and grace, a living embodiment of the kingdom's ideals. Personal feelings, anxieties, and vulnerabilities were to be hidden behind a mask of composure, a carefully constructed facade of regal serenity. The court, for all its grandeur, was not a home, a place of warmth and genuine connection. It was a stage for constant performance, where every interaction was carefully calculated and every emotion carefully controlled. Beneath the glittering surface and the elaborate rituals, Margaret's isolation deepened, a growing chasm between her public persona and her private self. The relentless pressure to conform, to perform, and to maintain a flawless image began to take a toll on her spirit. Her public life was grand, a dazzling display of royal power and prestige. But her private world, the space for her true self, was slowly shrinking, confined by the weight of her responsibilities. In the quiet moments, away from the prying eyes of the court and the demands of her position, a strange habit, a peculiar behavior began to emerge, a subtle crack in the queen's carefully constructed facade. The queen's struggle was largely invisible to the outside world, a hidden pain masked by royal composure, but it was growing stronger with each passing day. The seeds of a hidden affliction, a silent torment, were sown in the fertile ground of isolation and relentless pressure. Alone in her chambers, a world away from the bustling court and prying eyes, Margaret found herself increasingly isolated. The weight of her position, the expectations placed upon her, began to take their toll. In the solitude of her private space, Margaret developed a secret habit: pulling her own hair. It started subtly, almost unconsciously. What began as a nervous gesture, a fleeting response to mounting pressure, became a compulsion she couldn't control. The urge intensified, demanding to be satisfied, offering a strange sense of release. The act offered fleeting relief from her anxiety and isolation, a momentary escape from the suffocating reality of her life. It was a twisted form of self-soothing. In a world where she had no control over her destiny, where political machinations and societal expectations dictated her every move, this was one thing she could command. One small act hidden from the world that gave her a semblance of power. The habit escalated. The relief it offered was short-lived, and the compulsion grew stronger with each passing day. She began to eat the hair she pulled. A disturbing development, a descent further into the depths of her secret affliction. Today, we know this as trichophagia, a condition often linked to trichotillomania, the compulsive urge to pull out one's hair. In Margaret's time, it was nameless, a shameful secret, a hidden burden she carried alone. She hid her compulsion from everyone, fearing judgment and ridicule, terrified of discovery and the potential consequences that exposure might bring. Each strand consumed was a silent cry for help, a desperate plea lost within the cold, unyielding walls of the castle. The palace walls witnessed her decline, the slow erosion of her well-being, but no one else did. Her isolation deepened, trapping her in a cycle of secrecy and suffering. Her suffering was invisible to the outside world, masked by her noble facade, her pain unspoken, locked away in the deepest recesses of her heart. The compulsion grew stronger, fueled by her mounting anxiety and the desperate need for control, the consequences more dire, threatening to consume her entirely. Margaret's secret was a shadow, lurking in the corners of her mind, growing darker each day, threatening to engulf her in its oppressive embrace. Her affliction was as mysterious to those around her, shrouded in secrecy and misunderstanding, as it was deadly, slowly poisoning her from the inside out. Trichophagia is a compulsion, not a choice. It often arises from anxiety or obsessive-compulsive tendencies. Eating hair can become a coping mechanism for overwhelming distress. The cycle is vicious relief, then shame, then secrecy, fueling more anxiety. In the 14th century, such behavior was seen as madness or sin, not illness. Margaret had no words or support for her suffering. Confession would have brought condemnation, not help. Her silence was self-preservation, but also her undoing. She was utterly alone, unable to seek or even imagine help. The tragedy was not just her illness, but the world's inability to understand it. The body cannot digest hair, it accumulates in the stomach. For someone with trichophagia, the hair forms a solid mass, a trichobezoar. As Margaret's compulsion continued, this mass grew inside her. At first, it caused discomfort. Soon, it became a heavy, dangerous presence. The trichobezoar was a physical manifestation of her hidden pain. It led to malnutrition, ulcers, and eventually, life-threatening blockages. Medieval medicine had no way to diagnose or treat such a condition. Physicians relied on theories of humors, not anatomy. The true cause of Margaret's illness was unimaginable to her doctors. The mass inside her was a silent, deadly intruder. She suffered as her body slowly failed her. The court was powerless to help. Margaret's health visibly declined. Pain, nausea, and frailty replaced her youthful vigor. Physicians were baffled, offering ineffective remedies. Rumors swirled poison, curses, divine punishment. Her inability to produce an heir fueled courtly gossip. Margaret lived in terror, knowing her secret was killing her. Confession risked accusations of madness or witchcraft. She suffered in silence, her isolation complete. King Charles could only watch, helpless. The tragedy unfolded in public, but its cause remained hidden. The Queen's decline was slow and agonizing. The court could do nothing but witness her suffering. Margaret's fate was sealed by ignorance and silence. 14th century medicine was powerless against Margaret's illness. Physicians relied on ancient theories, not science. Treatments like bloodletting and purging only weakened her further. Surgery for internal problems was unthinkable and deadly. The Queen's stomach was a mystery no one could solve. The doctors were not incompetent, just limited by their era. They fought an invisible enemy with useless tools. Margaret's death was not their failure, but medicine's. Her story is a stark reminder of the limits of knowledge. Facing a deadly illness in the Dark Ages was a terror all its own. In the end, the trichobezoar blocked Margaret's digestive system. She suffered malnutrition, pain, and likely infection. She died at 26, her illness a mystery to all. Only after death was the truth discovered, a mass of hair in her stomach. The revelation shocked the court. Her secret was finally exposed. The whispers turned to horror and disbelief. Margaret's lonely struggle was laid bare. Her story became legend, a queen consumed by her own suffering. The tragedy was unforgettable, echoing through the palace halls. Margaret's secret was her undoing, but also her legacy. Margaret's story became a legend and a medical milestone. Her case is one of the earliest recorded fatal trichobezoars. It highlights the link between psychological distress and physical illness. Today, we understand and can treat trichophagia. Margaret's tragedy reminds us of the importance of empathy and mental health. Her suffering was not weakness, but illness. Modern medicine offers hope where she had none. Her legacy is a lesson in compassion and the limits of knowledge. Behind royal power, she was a human being in pain. Margaret's story endures as a profoundly human tragedy,